My boyfriend, 33 meters, and I, 32F, in general have a great relationship. We love to hang out together, have similar opinions on all the important topics, family, finances, religion. I didn't think a relationship like this could exist before I met him. However, he gets upset as soon as something isn't as he thought it would be, even if the change is super small. Some examples: he didn't get to sleep at 10 p.m. as planned, but 10:20 because of a phone call with a friend. Google Maps tries to guide him through a closed alley. He is hungry. The BBQ is set to start at 5 p.m., but I can't answer his question if food will be served right away. A bird got into our balcony. A mosquito is flying around. On vacation when I brought him a towel to our bathroom, I put it on the closed toilet instead of the sink. He felt underdressed among me and my coworkers. He wasn't, and many more. In general, these are somewhat negative experiences, but the way he reacts to them is very over the top. He will get really angry and annoyed and everything sucks. Why did I even come? I can't live like this kind of way. Everything is really catastrophic in that moment, and it mostly reminds me of a toddler who's having a tantrum. There is no way of talking with him when this is happening. He doesn't get angry at me, and afterwards he acknowledges what happened, but at the same time he doesn't see this as problematic as he's just expressing his feelings. I try to be understanding as yes, he is just expressing his feelings, but the fact that this happens over the smallest things, it means I have to be super considerate all the time about what might go wrong when planning something non-ordinary as to not have to deal with a tantrum. I personally really enjoy vacationing and such where things usually don't go as planned, and this is not fun anymore. So I'm conflicted. Am I overreacting by being annoyed by this? How to handle this kind of situation? I don't see this as black and white, so I'm really curious what you guys think. He needs coping mechanism for managing his emotions that don't involve over the top behavior over very little thing, literally. If this is his standard behavior, the relationship isn't that great, because how can it be when someone gets bent out of shape over a mosquito or being hungry? He needs therapy and a lot of growing up. This isn't something you can fix on your own. I just processed that he's 33. Oh my. Thanks. I started doubting myself as I had the same opinion and didn't know how to formulate that. Really appreciate your comment. Yeah, I dealt with this for 2 years. I tried to leave him. He begged me to stay. I said I would, but he could never yell at me again. He lasted 4 days and I walked out of his mother's house and blocked him everywhere. Sorry to hear that, but so happy you stood up for yourself. Will definitely keep this in mind. He sounds fucking annoying as he reacts to the dullest of minor inconveniences. Why would he change when you so readily accommodate him? Constantly bending over backwards is going to give you permanent spinal damage. It's your choice. My husband is like this, and it's really fucking boring and tedious. I ask him, why do you expend mental energy on this type of nonsense? I've told him that the kids absolutely hate it, and he's going to ruin his relationship with them if he keeps it up. Okay, I'm surprised I haven't seen this question yet. I totally agree that this behavior is not okay, but has your boyfriend ever been evaluated for something like autism? This sounds very similar to some of the symptoms of it. I saw scrolling looking for this comment. Definitely not okay behavior, but definitely sounds like a touch of autism. My ex was a bit like this. Great guy, but he couldn't really cope with things not being how he planned them or slight inconveniences. After a while it gets kinda draining, and you feel a bit tense about everything. It really sucks the fun out of a lot of situations. Having to rush round preempting and solving problems to avoid drama from a grown adult isn't great. The fact that this happens over the smallest things, it means I have to be super considerate all the time about what might go wrong when planning something non-ordinary as to not have to deal with a tantrum. Don't you think life is too short to voluntarily subject yourself to this? Contingency plans for tantrums? Come on. I mean, the dude is 33. This has likely been his mode of operating for his entire life. It's a big part of who he is. Changing this thought process and behavior could take *years* if he's even receptive enough to the idea of changing at all. What do you think the likelihood of that is? If you have to walk on eggshells, because your partner has issues with controlling his feelings, then you have a big problem on your hands. Good times don't outweigh bad times, and I can tell you from personal experience that this kind of thing only gets worse unless he admits he has a problem and commits to changing it. Congratulations, your boyfriend is more than likely autistic. Best he gets officially diagnosed and starts seeing a therapist to understand how to develop proper coping techniques. Is he autistic? This is a legitimate question because autism can cause outbursts like this. What seem like minor inconveniences one person may be absolutely catastrophic to an autistic person. I get the same way for certain things. My partner folds the washing the wrong way. No one is coming dinner by 5 p.m. Someone has moved something of mine etc. Because I know my condition, thanks to my physiologist, I can generally keep it to myself. It is also totally okay to know that it is something you can't handle as well. I'm only mildly impacted, but I know how much of a pain in the asterisk I'm in regards to my issues, and my partner is a very patient man. I was thinking this as well. You're not overreacting. You might make more progress with him if you're blunt and say it really turns you off when he acts so childish. How can anyone respect a man throwing a tantrum over a mosquito or a towel? You need him to commit to working on it with a professional. For men, it's pretty common for depression and anxiety to be expressed through irritability and anger, so that's something to discuss. Big picture, it's the day-to-day experience with a partner that either adds to or detracts from your quality of life. If he's not willing to change, I think you'd be smart to consider moving on. 100%. Thank you. You're not overreacting. I don't know how you can deal with this, however he can certainly look into therapy for himself. Why do you have to always be considerate of his feelings? He is ruining any special time out together, and you can't ever totally relax and have fun because you know it's going to happen at some point. If anything, he should start being considerate of your feelings. Thanks for this. We did have that first conversation just a few minutes ago and it actually went really well. I'm not going to be blind and go with it just because of a promise, but if things are gonna change, this was a good start. Though not a doctor, with it being really specific small things, he may be on the spectrum. This is just based off your examples. It sounds like he has an undiagnosed anxiety disorder. This is me on bad days. Before I went to therapy, I lost a lot of relationships because I panicked over the most minor shit, and rightfully so. The problem is that to your boyfriend these emotions are likely very real. He can't really help them. However, he is responsible for how he deals with those emotions. I'd try to sit him down gently at a moment when he is relaxed and have a frank discussion about this stuff. It's likely that he too realizes that the way he handles things is not normal. Men are socialized that they're wimps if they need help with this sort of thing, however, and it can be hard to get past that. TL, doctor, he needs therapy. Yup, for sure. I can see how real it is for him, and that's why I was doubting myself if maybe this is normal. I'm glad he sees it like that as well. Thank you. This sucks and you shouldn't have to subject yourself to it, but I'm wondering if he may have undiagnosed autism or OCD or something. Might be worth looking into. I love how so many comments were on this topic that I haven't really thought of this for him when it crosses my mind often when reading about others. Thank you. Your boyfriend needed therapy like a decade ago. I've just started therapy to process a similar kind of behavior. I have a tendency to blow up over very small things and quickly become pessimistic and a right doomer about life all over a bad day. So far I've learned in therapy that this was the only behavior I grew up with, and therefore it's the only way I know how to react to things. Does your boyfriend come from an angry / emotionally volatile / abusive background? That could be why he behaves like this. If it's all you know, then you don't really have a good grasp on your other emotions or good coping mechanisms to deal with small stresses. Therapy would be great for him to get in touch with and recognize his feelings and what sets off this behavior and preventative measures he can take. The only other thing that comes to mind is autism or an undiagnosed mental illness. The fact that things don't go exactly according to plan, therefore leading him to a meltdown because he wasn't prepared. He just needs your support and some professional help. Putting a clean towel on the toilet would make me mad too, though I would just ask for another one. This is weird enough that I would consider looking into possible psychiatric factors. The effects on routine being hard to deal with is a common symptom of autism, for example. The inability to manage one's emotions and responses appropriately is a symptom of many things, from depression to anxiety, to ADD. Either way, if you don't want to put up with dealing with this, you don't have to. It's ultimately up to him to deal with his responses and feelings, and those shouldn't impact you over such relatively trivial things. Talk to him and explain how it affects you and what he can do going forward to resolve the situation. He doesn't see this as problematic as he's just expressing his feelings. Interesting. When he's hungry or there's a mosquito flying around, that's sufficient cause for him to throw a tantrum. So, when he's throwing a tantrum, what kind of feelings does that entitle you to express? Is he capable of realizing that he wouldn't like to be on the receiving end of his own behavior? And so you will be a prisoner to his emotional outbursts. Fun. In time you will probably isolate yourself, so you don't have to explain this to your friends and family. Speaking from experience. Does he have a lot of underlying stressors in his life? This sounds like me, when my resilience is low, and I'm barely coping. If not, he needs to have some counseling to learn coping mechanisms. Even something as simple as take a deep breath, hold and count to 5 as you let it out before overreacting might help. Find a therapist, and if this doesn't work, just explode back at him and see how he likes it. You cannot live your life walking on eggshells. No fun. I used to be like that. My GF, now wife, sat me down and had a serious talk with me about how I made everyone around me uncomfortable. And I did listen to her. I really did not think about other person, you know, and it's sometime after that I started to observe others. There was once my brother snapped at a waitress and made me realized, yes, it was very awkward for other PPL involved. I changed thanks to my GF. If your BF doesn't listen, I really don't know how to approach. It's almost a self-realization for me. This could also be anxiety. I experience things similar to this, but my tantrums are mostly silent and inside myself, but it makes me anguish at times. I describe it to my partner as having a mind calendar. In my mind, I have imagined how things will go. I have made a calendar of events. When things don't go that way, it disrupts my flow and I get off kilter. It doesn't make the behavior you're experiencing acceptable, but it may be an explanation. Maybe you need to date around more, because I didn't think a relationship like this could exist before I met him. Says more about how low your standards are than how supposedly great he is, especially after reading your whole post. He literally sounds like bottom shelf man. You could do better. Yes, I had the same thought. The relationship is amazing, except that he's rigid and uptight, and any minor hiccup in life sends him into a meltdown. It sounds like he's creating more problems than he could ever solve. He sounds like my Bill. No one can stand him, and he always flies off the handle over dumb stuff. His eruptions last 4 seconds, but he is rude, condescending and an ass. He is verbally abusive to his wife, and thinks he is the greatest man in earth. He has no friends. My ex-husband was like this. It was 12 years of suppressing my own emotions, to walk on eggshells around his. It's a horrible life, and as time goes by you'll disappear more and more, because you're always back. Managing him 0/10 do not recommend. Autism or Asperger's for sure. Look into intermittent explosive disorder. It is a mental health condition where people regularly blow up and explode with anger that is way disproportionate to the thing that made them upset. Either way, your boyfriend needs therapy immediately. Raging at small things isn't normal or healthy. He needs to learn coping techniques and maybe medicine.